LDG Electronics provides state-of-the-art antenna tuners for every amateur need. An LDG desktop tuner works automatically with nearly any station up to 1,000 watts. LDG Zero Power tuners are ideal for portable or mobile use, as they consume almost no current and can be powered by internal batteries that last up to a year. LDG tuners are backed by our 2-year fully transferable warranty and our legendary customer service, the best in the industry. Visit us on the web at ldgelectronics.com.
And now, from Grid Square Echo Mike 48, this is 100 Watts and a Wire.
Well, hello and welcome to 100 Watts and a Wire. And my name is Christian.
This is November
got
2,
old
Hotel
Paul there.
Yankee.
We got our net going simultaneously tonight. It's good to be with you. My name is Christian. If it's your first time here, let us know that it is your first time, and we would love to talk to you and see you in the comments and all that great stuff. Tonight, episode 314, we're taking a look at vertical antennas, and I can tell you why we're going to be taking a look at antennas like this, because, well, I'm taking the hex beam out of service. The hex beam is now out of service. There was an issue with my rotor, and I decided I was going to pull it down. I was going to just take it out, and now I've got an option. I've got one slot open, and we're going to figure out what we should be talking about and in terms of verticals, and I don't know much about it. Let me introduce to you Sidecar Steve, Whiskey 7 United, Delta India. We just met this morning, and giving him a shot in here.
Nice to meet you, Christian.
Hey, how you doing there, buddy?
Doing good.
What's going on here? Okay, yeah. All right. I think everything is rolling good. We should be rolling out to Twitch and to YouTube. This is an audio podcast that you can watch live streamed on YouTube or Twitch, and maybe we'll even do Facebook at some time. I don't know, but it's good to be with you. Thank you all for stopping by. Steve is here because Steve knows so much more about these things than I do, and what's really exciting though, Steve, is that the hex beam. And I think I spent a lot of time and a lot of energy trying to get this damn thing. And it did. It did serve me well for probably 4 to 5 years. We talked through the galvanized pipe. We talked through the rotor. We talked about guying. I mean, all through the course of 100 Watts and a Wire, it was a documentary of what I was going through. And Steve is always close by on the text. And his flames shooting out smoke. I'm like, he'll write me back. Come on, write me back. And so he's given me all this sort of guidance as I went through the hex beam. I really enjoyed it. And I knew more.
That was a great challenge. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I knew more when I took it down, because I also sent Steve a couple of photos when I took it down. And I can share them with you. But the point is, I'm exploring other options now, but when I put that antenna up, I had help. And I didn't see everything. It made sense to me visually. It looks like an upside-down umbrella, that kind of thing. Everybody says it's like that. But when I took it down, years later, I've learned more about this stuff. And I said, wow, this was actually put together by friction. This wasn't even... And you were like, yeah, it's hard to screw into fiberglass, or, that's basically what those
what the spreaders are. Yeah, they're just fiberglass spreaders. So the sections are held together by friction and with the tension of the wires. And it's just one of those, just the way they designed it.
I was really surprised, and I thought, wow. And I could see my repairs. I had a couple of repairs. For our friends that are listening, you can't see the sincerity in my face when I tell you this antenna was destined to break my heart, really, because it's up under trees. It has a canopy of trees kind of over top it. It would sit through, kind of vertically, sitting there. It's about 20 feet wide because I got 6 through 20 meters on it. And I had a clearing, just one little clearing, and everything else had a little bit of an edge of trees. Branches had come down, These spreaders had been snapped in a couple of places, and every time I had to work on it, I'd had this anxiety because it was kind of heavy. The pipe I needed to use was kind of heavy. I wanted these 3 of them. I wanted to get way up there, but I couldn't handle it alone. And we talked about this last week on episode 313. But so I decided, look, the rotor was going, and I'm like, this would be a good time. This might be good. And I did it. I did it, Steve. And I felt bad. You could tell if you listen back to last week's episode, you could tell I felt a little bad about it. I needed I needed a hug from Steve in the virtual way to say, you know what? It's okay. You're going to move on. You're moving on from this antenna, and that's okay. As I thought, I'll always have a hex beam. And, I'm kind of cool with it, man. You talk a little bit about it, because I know you were there step by step through a lot of the hex beam stuff, and it's kind of the end of an era. And I know it's an antenna that you've kind of admired from afar, but don't have. Talk about the hex beam a little bit and our experience together and putting it up.
The experience was pretty interesting. When you first got it and you had help, and then it was kind of new into the family here of amateur radio. It was around maybe 4 or 5 years prior to when you finally started getting in, got yours, and it was one of those that I've worked a number of guys. I've listened to other guys operating with it, and was really impressed with what it is and how simple it is, lightweight, low wind. The square footage of wind surface is low compared to, say, like a full-size beam. So it's a great antenna. You don't need a lot of support structure to have it up. A simple mast, and then your rotor, and the challenges of having the rotor up on top versus down below, and all the other challenges. And people got very creative, and it was a great antenna for what it is. Mm-hmm. Like every antenna, they have their pluses and their minuses, and it was an antenna that wasn't very stout because it was lightweight, but it utilized fiberglass, which was the part of keep the spreaders out there, and that was part of the issue of fiberglass just doesn't last forever, especially with UV, unless it's protected, and it just breaks down after a while. If a wire snaps, you run into some other issues. But overall, I think it's a great antenna for what it is. It's a great starter antenna. I haven't played with one physically, personally. I've seen them. I've kind of touched them down at Dayton and this and that, and seen a few vendors that put theirs up at the various hamventions, and they're kind of cool. They're really neat. They're big. It's just but it looks like an umbrella upside down. But it's a great concept. But you have all kinds of limitations. And in your case, I kept going, tower. Just put up a 40-foot tower and you'll be good to go. Well, you don't have that. For me, throwing up a 40-foot tower is no big deal. For Christian, it was a little more challenging, and then there was some family issues, the acceptance from the rest of the family. So like all the other stuff that we go through, and it just worked out great for you for all these years. It kind of wore out. It's time for something new. Let's try different antennas, and tonight we're going to kind of venture off and talk about verticals and go through the pluses and minuses. We're not going to get super deep into the weeds about it, but we're just going to touch the highlights and what's the positives, the negatives, what we have to consider when we put one up, if that's what we want to go with, and go from there. So we'll touch on verticals a little bit later.
It's a beautiful thing to have options, you know what I mean? And I think now that I described to you guys the opening of the hex beam, and it has some trees around it. Everything I do is in the woods. Part of that tower thing, all those things you said was true, and I would have been putting it up in a time where I just got into this, and I'm not really a strong climber. I'd have to have Steve come spend like a weekend or more just training me how to get up a 40. I know it's like 40 feet, but we've seen people fall doing things they think they can just get up there and do quickly, and I'll just be a minute, and, things like that. And so there was a bunch of variables with the tower. Now I think about it, and I'm like, man, he was always right. You were always right about it. It was just those things. But since my hex beam had a bit of clearing, I mean, I was shooting the signal through the woods, and I think that actually caused some issues with, being efficient or being effective. It was an efficient antenna. It's a good antenna, and all those bands are mono band, really great SWR. It's a kick-ass antenna, let me tell you. And it's light from the antenna portion. You can manage it. It's 20 feet, but you can handle it. It's the pole, the rotor, all that. It gets a little dicey with the weight. I had it wenched up. Getting to the vertical discussion, I have that opening. It's a clearing straight up, and I started thinking, maybe. So that's how that came. Let me show you Uncle Paul here before we get too deep into this. Welcome to anybody watching who is new, anybody who's listening new. You can watch this live on Sundays, 7 o'clock Central Time, and we live stream to Twitch if you like to do that. I went over to Twitch today just to see, because I hadn't been there for a while. And there's this beautiful girl, and I'm like, it was like the weird part of town. She is right now. If you went to Twitch right now, go to my thing and then look at it. But when you land there, you see a girl licking fake ears. And I'm like, what the hell? So you go there, first person that puts it in the chat, it's for real. But people will watch all kinds of stuff on the Twitch, and we're on there. We're also streaming on YouTube. So as an audio podcast listener, as you take this with you, just know Sunday nights we live stream this recording out. Now, for the people who are watching, you can see Uncle Paul, N2HYG, on your screen. Folks that listening to the podcast, you can hear him checking people in. It's Sunday evening. We have an HF net. And let's listen into a little bit.
All right, listen, I'm going to let you get on with the net. 2734, number 2734. Beautiful signal. N2HYG from WA2JOE.
Oh, Pastor Joe checking in.
73 is my friend.
Nice.
It's always good.
I can see Stephen, Pastor Joe, Scotty is here, DJ, Ben, Marty, Todd, hello to you. Wes
Good evening, everyone. Yeah, thanks for being with us.
Appreciate you guys being here.
Yeah, Wes is here also.
Wes, some other Stephen in Philadelphia has joined us tonight. If you're on the Discord, what I can do is I will put, if I can do that here.
Which I'm probably going to wind up
we'll listen to the net just a second.
Maybe over the winter time, closer to the summer, where people's interests are peaked a little bit more. But yeah, I don't use it as much as I used to. We had two of them. I gave one to my my daughter.
So in now.
This one is a Hobie. It's like 13 and a half.
Those two are talking about antennas, and this is the kind of net where we like to bring the community together, get on the air, as Steve says. It's one thing to talk about. Right. It's another thing for us to do it, and we want to do more ham radio. We would like to be bringing the community toward the radio. This is great. You can open a browser, watch it, listen. You can go to Discord, join the Discord. You can even call in. That's great through the Discord. But the goal now is to bring you to the radio, and I think that's important. So the net is moving along, and Steve and I are going to get into vertical antennas just a little bit here. And I got to say, I've always been a wire guy, hence the name of the show. The wire has been, I can make a nice old dipole antenna. But I got to tell you, I get a little confused with the verticals. I understand a little bit about counterpoise. I understand. But some of these things, Steve, are 43 feet in the air. And I've worked with a 13-foot whip on a portable Alpha Antenna Hotel in recent days, last weekend, in fact. And 13 feet, it gives you a little bit of You might want to consider guying it. I know you're laughing because we usually guy at 15 feet on whatever. 43 feet on a vertical. Teach us a little bit about what you know about verticals, maybe a bit how they work. When I say to you, how's it work, Steve? How do you teach this?
I mean, let's go with the simplest. Quarter wave vertical. Well, basically, it's just one half of your dipole. And it's just, instead of being horizontal, it's now vertical. And then you're only utilizing one half of your dipole, because a dipole is a quarter wave antenna, and then you have a quarter wave counterpoise. Now, pretty much all antennas need a counterpoise to work off of. That's just the nature of antennas. It all, end-fed wires, they go, oh, there's no counterpoise. Well, actually there is. It's part of your coax is your counterpoise, or you have another little piece of wire, 0.05 wavelength is for a counterpoise. But everything, your mobile antenna, whether it's on, your 2 meter 440 or an HF antenna vertical, whether it's a hamstick, a hustler, the vehicles, the counterpoise to that. So it's, think of a vertical as kind of a half of a dipole. It's you can take a dipole and put it vertically, orient it vertically, and it will work fine. Logistically, it doesn't work very well, because you want to take your feed line and so you got your vertical right here, and then you got to go your feed line off horizontal, and it's just not practical to do it that way. So typically now what you do is you bring your vertical down to the ground if it's ground mounted, and then you have radials on the ground. Or if you have an elevated vertical, so say it's up 10 feet where the base is, then you have you have what looks like guy wires, but they're just they're your counterpoise. So let's go back to the old CB days where you had the vertical and then you had some radials that stuck out. That was a quarter wave antenna or 5/8, depending on what brand you got and what size it was. So then we go into different, you talked about the 43 foot. Well, 43 foot antenna is approximately, 5/8 wave to 20 meters. And it's like 41 feet, 42 feet is, I think, the exact measurement. But 43 foot ends up being about 5/8 on 20 meters. Then you need some kind of matching network, because the impedance that is presented at the base of the antenna is not 50 ohms. So you just can't take your coax and directly hook up to it. You need a matching network to counteract the impedance and the inductance, and we don't want to get too deep into the weeds. So why a vertical? And space is one thing. The advantage of verticals. Well, let's go with the advantages first. It's very limited as far as space goes, other than the ground plane. So if it's ground mounted, you need to have a bunch of radials out approximately 1/4 wavelength. So let's talk 40 meters right off the bat. So that's 33 feet. And then you need about 33 feet of radials. The more radials you get on the ground, like 16 is good, 32 is better, 64 is even better. And then you start getting more, you reduce your losses, and the efficiency of the antenna becomes better and better. But there's a point of no return. I mean, you're not going to put down 64 radials. That's a lot of wire to put on the ground. So 16 to 32 is a good number. And so what is seen is just one straight, like a flagpole. And there's a number of people that have used flagpoles as an antenna. Was it 5.0? I think it is. Antennas makes a flagpole antenna, and it's very popular. There's people down in Florida that are using it, and it works out great. They have some guys will have a remote tuner at the base of the antenna, and then they'll tune multiple bands with that. So one of the big advantages of verticals, and we've talked about it before, was the angle of radiation, the takeoff angle. So with a dipole at a half wavelength, you're going to have about 20 to 24 degrees takeoff angle. So basically your signal is going to go off, and it's going to go up at, about a 24 degree angle off the ground. It's the same thing with a beam antenna. It's the takeoff angle, but the vertical antenna has a advantage that the takeoff angle is more like 15 degrees. So it's, a lot lower. And if you ever really paid attention to these DXpeditions that go off into middle of the South Pacific or South Sandwich Island in the Atlantic, the South Atlantic, or wherever, lots of times they're using verticals. It's really easy to put up, and but the big advantage is the takeoff angle.
Okay.
So that's one thing. Now that's talking about monoband. Now we have multiple bands. Like Hustler makes Highgate makes a AV series antennas, multiple bands. They either use traps, just like in a beam, or they have various lengths of elements to load up, create the quarter wavelength. So it varies from manufacturer to manufacturer. Personally, I'm not super into the verticals as far as the different manufacturers. I've played with a little bit of them. I kind of remember the old High-Gains that had traps, and it was you just kind of tuned it and you just kept on going, and you ended up with a 5 or 6 band antenna, which worked out pretty good as a vertical, and you mounted it on the ground, laid out your radials, and off you went, and you went to town. It's an omnidirectional antenna, so you hear everything in every direction. So it's unlike a dipole. It has a little bit of directivity towards the broadside, and there's a little bit of a null off the end. So there is a little bit of directivity with dipoles, but when it comes to verticals, it's 360. Neatest thing I talked to, doing ham radio again last week, and I didn't write down the guy's call, and I really feel bad. But for you guys that are running end-fed antennas, this gentleman called me on the net last week and said, "Oh, by the way, I'm running an end-fed, but it's on vertical." He took a fiberglass push-up mast, and he took his 20-meter half-wave end-fed antenna and just attached it to the mast and put it into a vertical configuration. And he was somewhere in the Midwest or on the East Coast, and he was booming into the Northwest. So just doing a great job as far as a vertical antenna. Didn't even think about an end-fed going vertical. I was like, well, duh. Wake up, Steve. And it's awesome out-of-the-box thinking. So just because you have an end-fed and you got a mast and everything, tie wrap it or tape it to that mast and send it vertical, and go to town when you do your next POTA activation.
Did you hit on disadvantages? Was it the monoband and the traps? And
yeah, it depends on the antenna. But as far as like a multi-band vertical antenna, like a beam, you got traps, and so you got to deal with those, and the maintenance of traps and critters and moisture getting inside of a trap is one thing. The pluses and minuses. The other minus on the vertical is a lot of man-made noise is vertically polarized. So now they say you're gonna hear a little bit more noise. The antenna is kind of labeled as a noisier antenna because of the man-made noise is typically vertically polarized. I don't, it's half a dozen or the other. It's noise is noise, and so there's that. And if you just build a monoband vertical, then you're basically like a monoband dipole. You're pretty well limited to the band that you made it. But there's the multi-band ones, and they're not that expensive overall, and they're pretty easy to put up, and I think they're more HOA friendly for a lot of folks. A lot of guys have taken even the other approach, is utilizing mobile antennas as their vertical antenna. They just mount it in a tripod and run some radials out from a small tripod and set it out in the middle of their backyard, and that works. So or a portable setup. So yeah, there's a lot of pluses and minuses, and I mean we can go into super deep into the weeds, but this is just we talk about wire antennas a lot. The name of the show, 100 watts and a wire, and that's the wire antenna. The dipole is our mainstay antenna for HF, but now we have other options. We have verticals, beams, hex beams, quads, you name it, the Moxon. There's all kinds of antennas, and then the various wire antennas, the Skirba antenna, the extended zap. There's a double extended zap, and I mean we can just go on and on and on. And then my favorite, the double bazooka. But verticals are great. And another advantage if you have dipoles up, and if you have a dual receiver like on one of the higher end radios, having a vertical also can give you a diversity antenna, which gives you another polarization versus you're normally operating horizontal, but when the signal is bounced off the ionosphere and back on the ground and off the ionosphere, so it has a tendency to change polarity or polarization. So there could be a vertical component of it, and having a vertical antenna for a diversity antenna might I mean, you've worked them. I know everyone else has worked people that, I hear you better on this antenna, on the vertical antenna, but I'm transmitting to you on my end-fed antenna, or I'm transmitting to you on my vertical, but I hear you better on my end-fed antenna. So having options like that is it's just another tool in your communications toolbox.
I am an options guy. I love options. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to give Steve a chance to get a sip of water. We're going to take a short break. We'll come back, check in on Uncle Paul and the net. We need to talk about the fallout, which is right around the corner. Talking about options and different antennas. Perhaps you'll do a vertical. And then we'll go and see what you guys are using. What vertical antennas work for you? We'll do that next.
From the summit to the shack, this is 100 watts and a wire.
There are several ways to support the content you enjoy. Here's another. Visit 100wattsandawire.com, click support. And one I'm really excited about is called Buy Me a Coffee. It's so simple. It is just that easy. It's almost like a tip jar for supporting the content you enjoy. Plus, it doesn't take up to 12% of your donation. Plus, we've got different membership level opportunities. We could do all sorts of things. Behind the scenes looks, exclusive teaching sessions. It's all in there like ragu. Flexibility, no long-term commitments, no sign up, no account needed. Just support. Just like buying me a coffee. Think about it. We've got a sustaining membership program you could look into. $3 a month gets you access to participating businesses. It's a win-win-win. Check it out at 100wattsandawire.com. Click the support tab, and thanks.
Whether you say 73 or 73, even 73s, we're still 100 watts and a wire.
Okay, friends. Well, welcome back. Christian here with you. With Steve, we've got our net rolling right now, so we'll be checking in with all of these entities right now. If you have a question about verticals, we may or may not be able to answer those. I won't be, but you are welcome to drop a question in the chat here. If you're listening to this after this recording, send me an email. You can do that through our website, 100 Watts and a Wire. If you're in the chat room and want to ask a question now, please put a Q in front of it, and I'll look for it, and we'll try to get that. A Q will give us a quick glimpse, and we can try to figure out if you have a question. Uncle Paul, November 2 Hotel Yankee Golf, is rocking the show right now. He is doing the Sunday evening HF net. He's on 7219 if you'd like to check in real time. If not, please come back next Sunday. We'll be live streaming and doing our net as well. So you can look at him right now. Let's talk about the fallout for a couple of minutes here, if I may. Let's go over here and take a look. The fallout's coming October the 8th through the 10th. Boy, I don't even know how many of these we've done right now, but it's getting up there. We're having a lot of fun. We do one in the spring and one in the fall. And the fall may be my favorite. I can't say. It's like picking the children, I guess. But the fall's coming. It's an anticipated time of the year, and I feel like, it's getting cooler out. It's kind of the last effort. In the spring, we do one too. But the fall seems to be like, that bitter cold is going to set in, and you may not be able to do portable until the spring. So there's an anticipation with both, I suppose. But October the 8th through the 10th, we are doing our annual 100 Watts in a Wire Fallout. You are welcome to join us here. It is not a contest. All the information is at 100wattsinaWire.com. Click Operating Events and learn all about it. Very simple. Steve wanted to initiate a point system a couple of years ago because we were rolling out hundreds of dollars of prizes, and we're happy to give things away, and we're happy to go to companies and ask them if they'd like to donate. But Steve felt that, if you're going to get a little skin in the game for these prizes, you should at least have 25 contact points. And I agree, especially with bonus stations, and we'll talk about bonus stations in the next couple weeks here. Who will be there? Steve and I will be bonus stations for sure. We'll probably have some other people working out there that you can chase over the course of that weekend. And if you work somebody like that, a bonus station's worth 5 points, guys. So really, you can get 25 points in no time. But we'd like you to get 25 points. Anything more to add to that, Steve? We covered it because people see points, they think, it's a contest. Mm-hmm. No. It's just the prizes are cool.
It was just to get skin in the game. That was pretty much it, and that way we can, it's you put a little effort into it, and so I mean we're grateful of the sponsors that donate the prizes, but it just make one contact and then win, say, the grand prize. It was like, wow, was that really fair to the other folks that right. Actually did a little more and got involved. So it was just kind of one of those, let's throw a little, get a little skin into the game, and it's pretty straightforward. 1 point for general contact. 2 points if you contact another one that has 100 watts in a wire ID, and 5 points for Christian, myself, and other bonus stations. And in years past, we've had enough bonus stations to where you could get away with just five cues, and you've already had your 25 points. Right. But it didn't take much. It was just the whole purpose with the Fallout and the other operating events is just doing ham radio. We want to emphasize this part of this hobby is getting on the air and doing the hobby. And there's many aspects or facets of our hobby here, building and even doing a podcast or a video stream as part of the hobby. But truly, the essence of the hobby is getting on the air and utilizing the privileges that we've earned and that we've worked so hard to get, and the effort we put into building things and getting on the air. So from me, I have a big emphasis. Let's do ham radio. We're doing it. And the Fallout's one of them.
We've got some great prizes. People really support us every time. I got to say, I can just sort of ask, and it's a really nice thing, and it's mutually beneficial because we talk about these great companies, and they've supported since the beginning. MFJ, again, will be donating an antenna, something new that they want to put out for us. It's a 10-band HF VHF, 80 to 2 meters, and it's something to play around with. They're going to put the mount in for you, so you could do that. Power Films back in again. They've been great to us. They're not even a ham radio business, but they do realize that you might want power and need power out in the field. They're going to give a 20 or 30 watt panel. Details on that are coming. I don't ask too many questions. Once they say they'll give, I know they will. Nuts and Bolts magazine, a subscription to that. ABR Industries, this is one of my favorites because you get 50 feet of coax, right? It's awesome. You get to pick what kind of connector you want, and then they personalize it with your name and call sign. It's ridiculous. It's great. LDG Electronics, they're going to give away a 49-to-1 Unin. These work
nice.
They work really well in, say, less noisy environments, but I think you'll enjoy a 49-to-1 Unin.
That's the key part for your random wire end-fed antenna, whether it's horizontal or vertical.
There you go. We should build one. We should play around with one of these things, Steve. CQ Magazine is back. They're going to do a digital description. Bioenno Power, who have been with us for a good long time, they're going to give away that 9 amp hour battery, lithium-ion battery. It's something you can throw. It's less weight than a brick. It actually is small. Throw it in. You get to charge it with that. NI4L antennas and electronics. They're going to give away that ZS6BKW.
ZS6, yep. The optimized G5RV.
Yep. So we want the people, anybody can play. You can do this anytime, any band, any mode. Let's get Uncle Paul on because he's still working hard and he's under contract for screen time. We got to give him his love. It's hat. Anyway, you can play anytime, any band, any mode. There's really no rules. It's a simple exchange. Your call sign, where you are, state or province. But the winners need to be in the United States, and that has to do with shipping. I don't want to put the burden of shipping something that would cost less than the actual shipping price on our sponsors. So keeping it domestic here is something we've been doing for a long time. But check it out online, 100wattsandawire.com, and click our operating events to learn more. Do you want to see? I asked a question this week. I've been asking questions every week of the people on Facebook. It's such a nice and friendly community. And if you do Facebook, Sidecar Steve does not. I'll try to size this up so we can read it. But he does do Discord, and that's you get a daily affirmation from Sidecar Steve every morning when he rises. It is a lovely 46 degrees here in Ellensburg, so and he
on my drive-in
on the Hemingway, pulls over and takes beautiful pictures. So if you're into the Discord, I'll have to go and put that in the chat again. It's in there somewhere, but take a look for that. But each week I'll ask our Facebook group your thoughts on multi-band vertical antennas and what works for you. And Steve and I have always said what works for me may not work for him, vice versa. Antennas play differently in different places, but I thought it would be fun just to see what people are using. Top 81 comments on the board. Y'all are too young to know what I'm talking about. Richard Dawson, the Mad Kisser. How you doing, Joni?
Survey says.
Bing! Paul's using the 43-foot DX Engineering non-resonant vertical. I guess he puts the numbers there, but a 43-foot version. We talked about that a little earlier in the show. Not that specific one, but how a 43-foot antenna may work. Joey's using the DX Commander. Best bang for the buck, in his opinion. Let's see. Warren's using another 43-foot vertical.
Inside a plastic pipe, and there he goes. 65 radials.
Woo!
Look at that.
About 30 to 50 feet long. He's got a 4-to-1 Unin at the base. Needs an antenna tuner, but it works very well, he says. Steven, he just purchased a 05. Actually, it's a 05. If you're looking, I only know that because I saw another one came up. 05, 43-footer. He doesn't have it installed yet, but the price was right, he said. Rob's using the Hustler, perhaps the one that Sidecar Steve has mentioned here, 5B TV, not sure. Uses it for his remote.
That's 5-band It's a 5-band antenna.
Oh, gotcha.
And there's the 6 BVT, and I think that's the one. The 6 has the 80-meter coils in there.
Okay.
So Butternut's another one that's been around a long time.
Butternut, they come up. I've been hearing about butternuts. Now, is a butternut something that was used in CB as well, Steve? I mean, did they make a CB antenna? Because I feel like I heard
that. I remember them when I first got in the hobby. That butternut was a big player back in the day.
Okay.
And even into the 60s.
Okay.
Then there's the Gotham antenna. they made some. That was back in the 60s and 50s, 60s, if I recall. And they made some wild claims on how well their antennas worked. But
Really?
it was a vertical, basically. Yeah, they haven't been around forever. But the Gotham antenna.
Here's one
Old-timers
called. Oh, sorry. Jim said he's using a Gap Titan. I've seen that a couple of times here. Paul Brown, our friend Paul Brown. It looks like Paul Braun when written, but it is pronounced Brown, and don't piss him off. He lives in a condo. He educated his board about that, so he's got a Hustler 4-band, the 4B-TV ground mounted in his courtyard. Smart move on his part, Steve. He became the head of his HOA. So so that was the
way to go.
That was the thing to do, man. He had, he just became the boss. Another guy named Christian, I don't think so. I'm just kidding. Hustler 5-band TV with add-ons, not strap-ons. Paul. I don't know. I have a lot of problems, you guys. You know that. I don't know what an R8 is, Lisa, but I guess that's a model there.
It's a that I think is a Cushcraft vertical.
Cushcraft, another name.
The R7 and the R8. That's just more bands. In a nutshell.
Now I wonder if Martin Jew has purchased. I know. Does he have Cushcraft too? I know he's got several. Yes. Okay, he's got several companies.
Yes, Cushcraft, High Gain, Ameritron,
MFJ, of course, and there's others.
Vectortronics. Yeah, there's they're all under the, but Cushcraft, High Gain, they're under the MFJ umbrella.
Yeah, and and I don't need to defend them at all, and don't even need to bring it up. But there are some products. In fact, I had a couple of. I love their antenna analyzer. They've got 2 models that I really love. Their things and their push-up masts, I use them. I know they get a lot of heat out there about different things, but knock it off. They put some good
Martin
stuff.
Kept a number of these companies like High Gain, Cushcraft, that has been a staple in the amateur community for many, many years, and he kept them alive and kept the products going and still developing it and producing it. So. A lot of people have their opinions about MFJ, and it's an American-made company. They employ, Americans here. That's done in Mississippi. Like everything else, nothing's perfect. Sometimes there's, some issues, but you know what? They're a great company to deal with, and I'm glad they're around, and they make a lot of products for us.
They're keeping it going. I love the family ones. I love the family companies, your LDGs. They make a ton of electronics. NI4L, the antenna. These are ma and pa shops, and it's not easy. It's not easy out there, but I didn't mean to go on a rant there. But 33-foot vertical says Texama Astor with a 4-to-1 Unin, a remote.
And a remote. That one's interesting. That's an interesting setup. But it's the 4-to-1 Unin. But, hey, if it works, go for it. I mean, he has the remote antenna tuning unit, and that's the one thing you need, especially like with a 43-foot, if you want to do that. If you can, even with any verticals, if you can get it to a remote antenna tuner, and it's tuning right at the base of the antenna, that's the most ideal, especially for multi-bands. Now, if it was mono-band and you're only operating on one band, then a matching network is all you need. But if you're going to operate multi-band, the key is to get that remote antenna tuner right at the base of the antenna, whether it's the 05 flagpole antenna, the 43-foot DX Engineering, or whatever. That's the key. That's for multiband operation.
Mark's using a Hustler, the 4B TV. He added 12 and 17 to it. Works great if you can get a good radio field implemented. The bass tilt, the tilt bass is a must. I agree. Yes. I love a tilt. I love a tilt. If I had a tower, Steve, and I know you would love for me to have a tower, I would love one of those.
Tilt ones? Yep. They make
crank up tilt one. The cranky tilt ones, boy. I like those.
No? Just get that big old drill motor in there and then just motorize it.
Oh, yeah. There you go. There you go. You can tell
That's where it's smarter, not harder.
That's right. That's right. Brandon says Chameleon antennas, the M-Pass 2.0. You'll need a tuner for that. Sounds, I think you can install it as a base station if you want to. Any of these things. Mm-hmm. For me, they're all temporary antennas. They're all not permanent, in other words. Daryl's using a 33 push-up pole with a 9-to-1 end-fed Balun, 33 feet of wire, 1 to 1.3 on 40, 1 to 2 on 20 before any tuner. Okay. There you go.
That's that end-fed wire. Nice.
Todd's using a Comet 250B. Hopefully that's going to work out for him. Always getting that. So, yeah, good luck with that, Todd. Yes.
If I recall right, so if you ever hit it with power, don't. They're not designed for high power. Okay. But I think they're rated like 200, 250 watts, but that's about it. So
this is good research for anybody who is considering, and these will live on Facebook, and it's an active community, a friendly community, but not everybody is on Facebook, and Zuckerberg is a little wacky sometimes, and hence the move over to Discord. So you're welcome to join us over there if you'd like, and I'll drop that again. But I mean, even Sidecar Steve is doing the Discord, but many people don't want to do it. But this will live here, and if you're looking to buy something, we're seeing a pattern. The Hustler 6B TV, it's coming up, back-to-back posts. We've already seen several of those. So, it gives you a hint of where you can go and look and start to make some decisions. I hope that's valuable to you.
Well, and the other thing is that you can go, hey, I'm thinking of this antenna, the 6BVT. What do you people think? As a question to the community. And we have a lot of people throughout the country and places that have that antenna, and now they have real world experience and they can tell you about it. And this is great. I mean, it's a relatively inexpensive antenna for what you get. You get a lot of bang for your buck.
Yes, sir. Just a reminder, coming up after the show will end at the top of the hour. We try to do 1 hour episodes here. I don't think keeping anybody longer than that is good. However, we will do a post-show net. Steve will probably go to 20 meters if it's still up for him, and take your calls in the post-show. So you're welcome to join us there. Remember, friends, it is one thing to talk about it, stream about it, podcast about it, but we want to be about it too. I'd love to take this community to the radio. That's my new goal starting tonight, Steve. Tonight.
Take it to the radio.
You're 5'9". Take it to the radio. Print that shirt, Patrick. Let's get that shirt rolling and take it to the radio.
Take it to the radio.
I like it. Sounds like a Doobie Brothers song. Maybe we can work something out. Let's see. Another butternut. HF9V ground mounted. Again, all this stuff will remain on the Facebook page. If you want to go check it out, please do. And if you're in the market, there's another 5B TV by Hustler. Connor's
St. Louis vertical. Let's scroll back down a little bit. The St. Louis vertical. First described by the St. Louis QRP Club.
I see.
So vertical loaded whip, 4 radials.
Interesting. Was there more?
Nice. Interesting. Have to look into that one.
Okay.
Here's made from 3-wire. Interesting.
We're just reading it through here.
Yeah, it sounds like a great little QRP antenna, and good for them.
The St. Louis Vertical. Okay, cool. Yeah. I like that. I'm going to look
at your backyard
a bit more. All right, we've got about 10 more minutes here before we make our shift. There's another Connor does the DX Commander Nebula. Cool name. DX Titan Gap. Jack uses that. Now, Bob said he did his own do-it-yourself vertical.
Mm-hmm.
Second would be a fan vertical.
Fan vertical.
Ben, the super antenna. Now, this is, I know at least one person purchased this back in 2016. A good friend of mine used that during the national parks on the air. Don't have a review on it, but I did know somebody who tried it. Steve, another Hustler, 6B TV. We got another gap antenna here from Andy. Keith with a diamond. Let's see, he's written a lot here. We'll have to check back on that. The Butternut makes another appearance. HF9V. Let's see, what are you doing, Lance? 43
Lance, that's simple. Just hang a 43-foot wire from a tree branch, 4-to-1 unun, some 8 ground radials, and LDG tuner. There you go. Simple.
All right.
Just a wire antenna in the vertical plane. Way to go.
There you go. And I hope that helps you. It'll give you some idea of the options out there. And it helped me a lot. So thank you. I have a opening. It's the number 1 slot in my switcher now. The Hexbeam used to live there, and I'm looking into options. It's a great thing to be into this week, exploring verticals a little bit. Saying hello to some of the people who have came. Dennis, I see Dennis looks like a new face. John, hello. Jameson is here. If you're new, put new down in the chat. It's nice to meet you. Good, friendly.
Nice to have you guys.
Friendly bunch. Let's check in with Uncle Paul. Uncle Paul is running the Sunday 100 watts in a wire HF net. He is on 7219. If you're following along, please go ahead and get on the radio. Let's listen.
Your number is 4388. QSL. All right, very good. Let me get that in. Let me get the paperwork out of the way. 4388. All right, yeah.
And I will drop our Discord server information into the chat. You can watch this again. If you're listening to the podcast, you can go back. You can also find this at 100wattsinawire.com.
No idea.
It's essentially a server where I'm putting all the content that I'm producing, whether it's a Citizen Kudnik program, 100 watts in a wire, Hour 73, and whatever else may come about. You can check it out there.
Come on, NetLogger is starting to act up there.
We got somebody in the...
Good old NetLogger.
NetLogger's giving him the business. It's a free piece of software.
Oh, yeah, it gave me the business last week.
We got a telephone. Software. We got a telephone caller. We got from Freehold, New Jersey. Joe is around. So, Joe, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, we'll be here if you're listening. Just want to mute your stream, but you're able to come along and talk to us if you like. Don't forget the information about the Fallout, which is coming up. I probably will do... I'll work from the old wooden shed again. I'll go up probably 33, 34 foot on my push-up MFJ mast, which just serves me well. It also holds up one of my 2-meter 440s, a different one. I like their push-up mast. They're fiberglass. They do well. Guy them off. Bada bing. It's there. Let's go to the phones now from Freehold, New Jersey. Pastor Joe. Good evening, sir. Line 5. I'm not hearing him.
Got to unmute.
I'm not hearing him. He's unmuted. I'm just not hearing him. Is it something I've done? Yeah, I don't really hear you well, Pastor Joe. What's going on? Your volume is low. You're there. I see you, and you're not muted.
We're going to take general check-ins again. This is November 2 Hotel Yankee. My name is Paul Pop.
And we'll listen to Uncle Paul here for a second while we try to get Pastor Joe in. It's on a Sunday. I feel obligated.
After this
and blinking at the nut, and I see
We're
you
going to wind up
blinking, but
going
I
to
can't hear
look
you out
for
my
some
headphones.
QRPs and mobiles again. So, again, this is November 2, Hotel Yankee Golf, QRZ.
Well, everything should be the same. Let's see. Listen to them calling.
Anybody with a Kilo Charlie in the ending part of their call?
I hear you. You're just a little light.
Here we go. All right, QRZ again. Let's try again, guys.
Okay.
All right, I've got two of you guys.
All right, I guess we'll have to try and work
We'll wind up going with
work it out. Pastor Joe having a little trouble on the phone line tonight. But we're listening to Uncle Paul, who is running our net on Sunday evenings. Remember, every Sunday we're live streaming this portion. We check in with the net, check in with you, get on the radio if you can.
I'm running 100 watts here, and I come 73, and a Wyndham dipole for my wire antenna. You're coming in here nearly 30 dBs over into Ontario. Back to you.
We thank you, David. And it looks like it's Dundas, Ontario. Is that correct?
Very good. Dundas, Ontario. That's quite correct. And yes, I confirm 30 dBs over with a Q5 copy. Outstanding signal coming up here into Ontario, Paul.
I thank you, my
Paul
friend.
is spreading the love into Canada.
Spreading his
Bouncing to almost 20 yourself.
himself around.
Easy.
I love dancing around the algorithm. Let's see if we could take another call. We have a few minutes here. Let's see, Steve, you got a copy on me? You hear me? It could be me. We've got Steve in the Discord, or we did, actually. There we go. Now I unmute myself. Steve, do you hear me? Calling from Philadelphia. I fired the phone person tonight. I don't know what's up. I see you in there, Steve. I just don't hear you. It's one of those kinds of things.
Well, it's maybe one of those nights.
It's one of those nights. But
I love technology.
I enjoyed the show tonight. I got to learn a little bit. I got to listen to what the community is using and what's working for them. That's a whole different. That's a whole different thing. Let me go ahead and get myself out.
It's nice to see the Hustler, the XBTV series. You know, whether it's the 4, 5, 6. Antennas are still popular, and they're going gangbusters. Been around a long time. The Gap Titan has been another mainstay. Butternut, old, antenna from years gone past, still in its prime, still working. People using them, and then folks starting to migrate over to the 43-foot antenna. And trying different things. I mean, it's nice to see the trends just kind of go from here and there, and it's you find something that works for your situation, and then just go for it.
The folks,
let us. Oh
no, it's okay. The folks wanted to know where you were going to be on 20 meters tonight for the post-show portion of the net. What are you looking at?
I am looking so far on the band scope. I'm going to shoot for 14,265.
Okay.
There's something close. Yeah. Let's shoot for 14,265.
14,265. Okay. I'll write that down.
Yep, that's what we're shooting for so far. It looks like I got a gap there. So we got someone on 14,268. That's pretty loud here. We got some activity. Looking about 14,257, so they're just kind of going into 14,261. So I think we're going to be in the clear. That's 65, unless someone shows up in the next couple of minutes.
Pastor Joe, did you make it in tonight?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
I hear you a little bit. Let me turn this down. Good. Yep, come on. Do you hear him? Do you hear him? Yeah, you hear him. Okay.
Hey, Pastor Joe, how you doing?
What's going on, Pastor Joe? Everybody clean up.
All right. Hey, guys. Hey, we got everything all connected here. Too many wires. Steve, I want to tell you, the idea of a vertical end fed is really cool. I have an 80.
Yes.
I have an 80 to 10 meter end fed, which is 134 feet long. So I'm not quite sure I could do vertical with that.
Yeah, you can.
But
Balloon.
Yeah. Yeah.
The kite. You
the kite.
You got the kite.
Yes. That kite. There's a big 10-footer I wanted to buy, and it is out of stock everywhere. So we're gonna give it a shot. I got a question for you. You were talking about like the R8s and the R9s. The brand I'm talking about.
I think that's Cushcraft, right?
Yeah, the guys who are in the first couple pages of QST every month. Are those antennas meant to be mounted like on the ground? Could I put it on a mast of the house? How are they intended to go?
I think they're intended to be mounted on the ground, and but I haven't looked into that particular antenna in depth. I will now, just to kind of see what I don't know what the overall length is. A lot of verticals are in the 24 to 30 foot range, and I kind of thinking that one might be a little bit longer. So, I mean, yes, you can mount it elevated and say on top of a 10-foot mast, but now you're dealing with a lot of aluminum up there. So look at the logistics, the mechanical issues that you got to deal with. And I mean, elevated, less radials. Only 4 radials is equivalent to like 32 on the ground versus a ground mounted. But there's also the size of the antenna.
Yeah, the R9 is I think 32 feet tall. That's a big piece of metal.
That's a lot of aluminum up there, and I don't know if does it have coils in it or traps.
I'm not sure. All I see is the pictures in the magazine. But it's interesting. No radials. And I heard someone once say a long time ago, every time you see that, they want to sell you a bridge, right? So.
Yeah, I've just every antenna needs a counterpoise. I mean, it's just plain and simple, and it's just end feds. And what ends up happening, like end fed wires or verticals, if you don't have a radial system, or a counterpoise to work against, your impedance is not proper. But if you do get it to where it will match, now you're dealing with common mode currents on the outside of your coax, which in turn ends up into your shack. And but I'm not a fan of having your coax being your counterpoise. We need to have an actual counterpoise for it to work.
I hear you. All right. Yep, lots to think about. But yeah, the kite. We're going to do the kite, and I was out on the kayak today with the YL, and so I'm trying to figure out kite, kayak, antenna, ham radio. I don't know. I'll let you know.
Freshwater or saltwater?
This was a freshwater, yeah.
Okay. Well, if you go out saltwater, you just drag a little wire into the water, and then there's your counterpoise, the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah, that's right. And by the way, Christian, I was 2 miles down the show from that festival in Asbury Park where Pearl Jam was.
Oh my, yes.
From 2 miles away, man, it was loud. I mean, I could. Karen and I are like, "What is that?" And we realized it was the See Here Now. I mean, it was mostly bass and kick drum, but it was coming through. So
nice.
It's a fun festival. Yeah, it's a fun festival.
Good
All right,
deal.
guys.
Thanks
73. Thank you, guys. God bless
7-3. All right.
God bless you too, Pastor Joe.
You can
7-3.
Join us on Discord. These conversations happen. We can take telephone calls, if you will, here on the show. So everybody's welcome to join there. It is in the chat, and you can also find it on the website. Well, it's time for us to wrap it up. We're going to go to the post-show net where Sidecar Steve will host it. I think I might sneak in. My wife is watching the Emmys right now, so I may just sneak in with you. If I can hear you, I might come over. So anyway, look and listen on 14265. Sidecar is headed that way for the post-show portion of the net. 73 to you all. Take care of yourselves. Look after each other if you will. And if you can, please try and stay above the noise. Thank you very much. Thank you, Steve. Good night.
7-3, everyone.
See you on
Thank
HF. get on the radio, you guys. Go get on the radio. Go get on the radio.
Let's do ham radio.
7-3.
Get her done.
7-3.
Bye-bye.
To join the 100 Watts in a Wire community, visit 100wattsindawire.com.